Hello, I wanted to start today by asking you a series of questions just to get you thinking. First question is, in your day-to-day life, what percentage of your performance can you attribute, do you think, to your mind or your mindset? So what percentage of any of our performance, of what we do achieve or don't achieve, or do try or don't try, how much of that is down to, on a daily basis, our mind, our thoughts, our mindset? Write a percentage down. Second part, do you feel that we are in charge or in control of improving our mind and our mindset? The third part is, so how much time in any 1 week would you say, hand on heart, that you consciously spend working on your mindset? Comparing that perhaps with how much time you spend doing some fitness, or thinking about your nutrition, or thinking about your stress and your relaxation, your breathing. How much time per week are you consciously focusing on improving your thoughts, improving your mind and your mindset, your mood, and so on? Because if you said, and I've done this to huge audiences and workshops, I've put this question to them and got them to share their answers, and I would say the majority, well, all of them will say from 70% upwards. Many people say 100% as the answer to question one, and I totally agree with that. I think at least 90% of our daily performance is down to our mindset. If we're not saying the right stuff in our mind, we probably won't try that thing or do that or go there or aim to achieve it. If we're saying the right stuff, we're much more likely to, for example. They all pretty much say, all audiences agree that we are in control of improving it. But when I ask for a show of hands in terms of how much time they spend consciously working on the mindset, it is minimal, if any. And so the next question, of course, is why? Why do we spend so little time on improving our mind when we've already agreed that it's so fundamentally important and related to what we do achieve in our performance or not lack of performance? And the majority of us all agreed that we are in control of improving it. Why do we not improve it further? So hopefully this has given you some sort of a nudge, a little bit thought-provoking. And if nothing else, I could stop here and leave you with a thought that, well, okay, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, perhaps there's room for improvement in terms of how I'm thinking and how much work I do on my mind. So if it's done that, then this presentation has already proved its worth. The second question I wanted to ask you is, do you talk to yourself in your head? Again, the audiences all say yes, and the answer is yes. We all chat to ourselves. We've all got a chatterbox in our head or a parrot on our shoulder that chats away to us all day long, a little bit like having a background radio on. Sometimes we're not really paying attention to it or listening to it. Other times we tune straight into it. It seems louder, it seems more prominent, usually when we're in a fearful or stressed situation or self-doubting. This really comes into action, doesn't it? So what sorts of things, though, because it's running all the time, we have thousands of thoughts a day, most of which are not unique. They are repeat thoughts, they're habit thoughts. So what are your habit thoughts? What do you often say to yourself? So much so that you don't even question it, so much so that you don't even listen to it. And half the time you're not even really aware of it. And that is what I want to change from today's presentation. I want you to become more mindful of what that parrot is saying to you. I want you to go inside your head and actually take notice. And write it down. I always recommend in all of my YouTube clips and podcasts that you have a booklet dedicated to your progress, your well-being progress, and you always have that to hand, and that becomes your working tool. In that booklet, I want you to write down what sorts of things your chatterbox or your parrot is saying to you on a daily basis, and then question them. Is that helpful? Is that encouraging, empowering, and positive? Or actually, is it unhelpful, discouraging, disempowering, and negative? basically, because if it is, I want you to change those. So here I've put some potential things that lots of clients say to me. These are the sorts of negative thoughts that I hear clients share with me, or they say out loud and I flag them up because they're not even aware that they're doing it. So is this the sort of thing that you sometimes say? Do you say things like, I can't do this? This is just the way I am. Well, I'll mess that up. What's the point of? I won't be any good at that. It's just a pipe dream. What if I fail? What if I'm rubbish? I won't be any good at that. Fill in the blanks. What does your parrot say to you in terms of disempowering one? He will or she will say some really helpful ones as well. He or she, your parrot, suggested that you watch this video. You were searching around in YouTube, found this and thought, shall I have a look? Oh, that title looks interesting. Oh, that's what I'm looking for example. It's your parrot. Really, it's your thoughts that decides what you do or don't do. You obviously had a thought about the title or my name, or it flashed up, or you felt drawn to it for whatever reason, you were intrigued and interested. Here you are watching it. So your parrot had to say something first before it happened. So I would like you to now just spend 5 minutes with your notebook, literally, and write down some of your habit negative thoughts that you can immediately draw upon, that you know you regularly say. What have you been saying today, for example? Any negative, disempowering thoughts that you've been running today? What do you regularly say to yourself? I'm X, Y, and Z. I'm not X, Y, and Z. I'm too X, Y, and Z. Fill those in and try and work out what your parrot is saying to you. Because half the battle is being aware of it. You can't change anything if you don't know what it's doing, what it's saying, and what effect it's having. So the first step really is becoming aware, listening to it, going inside your head as almost a third person, and noticing what it says. This is often the power of coaching, because when I'm working with someone, I listen to their language. They very quickly get used to how I work. And I'll often say to a client, interesting, you've said something repeatedly today, at least 3 or 4 times about yourself. And I'm wondering what it's doing. What do you think I've heard you say 3 or 4 times? And they stop and they think, I don't know. And then I'll tell them, you've said you're da-da-da-da. Really? Have I? And they don't even know they're doing it. And the reason I flag it up is not that I want to correct their language or their English or anything like that. It's to let them know this is a pattern, this is a belief you have about yourself, that you're saying, you're labeling yourself. And that's what's holding you back, because it doesn't have to be your reality. You've just got to change what you're saying and how you see yourself. What is that doing for you? How is that helping you? So with a coach, for example, they will flag up and let you become aware. But what you can do with this activity is you can start that process now, and you can start working on it. Perhaps you could get a loved one to work with you on this for the next few days, weeks. If they notice you saying an unhelpful thought, they need to flag it up with you, so that it speeds and accelerates your learning and your awareness. So self-awareness is the key. These things, these patterns are habits. They're so habitual that you probably don't even know you're thinking them or saying them. You need to be aware of them. You can't change them unless you're aware of them. So my takeaway from today really is to notice what you're saying in your thoughts. So I would almost, if it were me, I would stop this film now, pause it, and start writing this straight away, because you're motivated right now. It's important to do it now, because if you say I'll do it after, you won't, I promise you. So do it now while you feel motivated, and then let it be an ongoing task. Have this notebook with you. If you're at work, keep it in your drawer. If you're at home, keep it close to hand. Review it every evening before you go to sleep. Maybe sit in bed, look at it, write down any others that you've realised. Because once you see them in black and white, they can be really quite it can be really enlightening and empowering when you see them in black and white and think, oh my word, really? Why am I saying that? I wouldn't say that to my friends. I wouldn't say that to anybody. I won't be so cruel to anybody. And yet we are to ourselves. I'm being very careful because I've got my little puppy. We got a puppy 3 days ago. She sat asleep at my feet. I'm terrified of rolling over her. So apologies for me keep looking down. In this task, then, I want you to record a minimum of 5 now. But if you can go for 10, even better. Double whammy. So pause the film, do this, and I'll see you in a sec. Now, the reason this is so key is because everything starts with a thought. As I said, you watching this YouTube clip started with your thought. Me doing this presentation started with a thought. This building started with a thought. Me becoming a coach started with a thought. Me getting a puppy. Whatever you do as a living, everything, this door started with someone's thought. Somebody wanted to get through an area rather than have to keep going around. They wanted to get in, but they didn't want the rain and the wind and the draft to come in, so they wanted easy access, but shut off the elements. A door was invented. So we have to have a thought. It starts here in everything. And thoughts affect how we feel. If you're having good thoughts, empowering thoughts, you will feel good. You will feel determined, motivated, good self-belief, etc., etc. If you're having negative thoughts, self-doubting thoughts, I'm rubbish, I'm a failure, she's so much prettier than me, he's so much fitter, he's so much better at public speaking, she's so much better on the phone than me, everybody will judge me, I won't make this call while people can listen. If you're constantly thinking that, this is going to affect how you feel. And how we feel influences our physical performance, our ability, our actions, our actual behaviours. So if we're saying helpful things, we'll feel good, we'll feel inspired, we'll feel motivated, we'll feel determined, we'll feel keen to take a risk, keen to get out of our comfort zones, keen to push ourselves forward, willing to just try, embracing things. That's how we'll feel. If we're saying unhelpful things and disempowering things, and there's no point, it'll be a failure, and there's no point setting up a business because what if it goes wrong? I'll be embarrassed. What would I say to my friends? There's no point putting out a podcast because I would run out of subjects to talk about. I won't do that presentation because I might mess it up and fall flat on the stage. My presentation could die and it'll be awful. Or there's no point going for that job, somebody else will be more qualified than me. So on and so on and so on. If we're saying those sorts of things, that's going to affect how we feel. How we feel will directly influence what we do. We don't apply for that job. We don't go for that date that we feel is slightly out of our bracket. So we've held ourselves back, or we won't try that new activity. We won't talk to that new person, for example. And that then determines our outcome. We didn't get the job. We didn't launch the business. We didn't write that book. We didn't launch a podcast. We didn't put some footage on YouTube and start a YouTube channel. We didn't audition for that show. We didn't trial out for the athletic performance or team. So we hold ourselves back. So it reinforces our thoughts. Nah, I'm too shy. I'd mess it up. It wouldn't work. They're much prettier than me. They're much more successful than me. See, he's up there presenting. He's doing it much better than me. It reinforces our original thought. And we go round and round and round. A self-fulfilling pattern. Basically, if you are getting an outcome in life that is an outcome that you don't want, and it's a repeat outcome that you keep holding yourself back. I had one teenage, late teens, I think he'd finished university, so he must have been about 20, 21, and his parents had encouraged him to come for coaching because he'd finished his degree, gone back home, hadn't got a job, was struggling to get a job, and as he struggled, he closed off his comfort zone more and more and more, and stopped going out, wasn't socialising very much, was turning mates down if they phoned for tickets to Wembley football or something. No, you go. I can't make it that night. And he was withdrawing more and more and more, and so his parents encouraged him to come for coaching. He needed to change this, because otherwise he was just going to get the same outcome over and over again, just withdrawing, turning things down. He had to, through coaching, he realised this. We changed what he was saying in his head, which changed how he felt. He was a little bit more motivated, a little bit keener now to make changes. He was willing to take some risks, and that changed his physical. He basically committed to saying yes to anything his mates asked him along to. He just decided in here with me, he said, I'm just going to say yes to whatever invitation comes through. I'm not even going to think about it and overanalyze it and talk myself out of it. That's what we do with our thoughts. The more we think about it, the more we talk ourselves out of it. We just do it. Just say yes, respond, get out there in the car, and off you go. Just apply for those jobs, just give it a go, just put your CV together, etc., etc. That's what he decided. And he changed his outcome, drastically changed his outcome. He felt much happier. He felt, because connection with other humans is key, so he was getting connection with his mates again, which was pulling him out of the his kind of quagmire or his mud, wallowing in the mud. It got him out, made him feel better, made him feel wanted, feel better in his own skin. That motivated him. He started to apply for jobs. We worked on his interview technique and his language and his whole persona, his whole ability to interview. He got the job. So everything turned around because he changed his thoughts, which breaks this pattern here. It breaks the cycle. That changed how he felt, changed what he did, that changed the outcome. If we keep doing the same thing over and over, i.e. keep thinking the same thing, or feel and do the same thing, we're only going to get the same outcome. We've got to do something differently. We've got to change something, and we won't do that unless we change here. That's a bit of a sermon, wasn't it? I wasn't realising I was going to go into that. Okay, so have a look at these. I'm going to stop talking for a second, just read them through and make a note of how many you relate to, how many you think, yeah, that's me. So again, I put these to audiences and group sessions when I'm running group workshops, and I give them a chance to read all of these, and then I ask a show of hands, please, for whoever could relate to, let's say, 3 or more, and you would be staggered at how many how many people put their hands up. So many of us relate to this, but why? When I ask them, what does this do for you, they say and report back that it suddenly makes them realize, why am I doing that? Why do I call myself negative names? Why do I predict the future negatively? Why do I expect myself to be perfect? Why do I pretend or make assumptions that I can read other people's minds, usually to the detriment of me? They're thinking this about me. They think I look stupid. They think I'm presenting badly. They think I don't know my job. How do you know what people are thinking of you? And anyway, it's none of your business what they think of you. Most of the time, they're not thinking about you at all, because they've got their own lives to worry about, their own insecurities to worry about, their own issues that are going through their mind. Trust me, if they're thinking about you at all, it's for a brief second, and it is almost certainly not what you think they are thinking. None at all. And you'll never know what they're thinking, and it makes no difference anyway, because it's just a thought, it's just a perception. It really, really doesn't matter. The only way to safeguard you really against people's judgments is by doing nothing. If you stay in, go nowhere, do nothing, say nothing, you totally withdraw, then you safeguard yourself. There is no risk that somebody will think something negative. There is no risk that somebody will judge what you're wearing, judge what you're saying, judge how you're walking, what you're doing, how you're running, whatever it is, how you're presenting. But that's not living. It's a bit, what was the phrase that I heard once? A boat is safe in a dry dock. But that is not what a boat was built for. So it's got to get out there on the stormy waters, hasn't it? That's what it's built for. And you'll never know how strong it is until it's been out there on the stormy waters. We weren't supposed to live in tiny self-inflicted prison. We're not meant to. We're meant to be out there taking risks, mixing, connecting, surviving, thriving. So we have got to stop doing this. We wouldn't do this to our friends. We wouldn't call our friends negative names. We wouldn't predict the future negatively for them. We wouldn't make things far worse than they are for them, etc., etc. We wouldn't blame them for everything, saying it's always all their fault. We wouldn't expect them to be perfect, and yet we do of ourselves. Why? And we take that chatterbox around with us 24/7. So if it's doing this 24/7, what kind of grimness is that for us in our heads? So we've got to start treating ourselves the way we treat our friends, saying the same things that we would say to our friend, calling them positive names, predicting the future positively for them. You'll be great. You'll get that job. You'll be great. They'll love you. That's what we say to our friends. Or we'll say about, I keep going from top to bottom here. Well, don't worry, it doesn't matter. We all make mistakes, don't we? We don't expect our friends to be perfect. We do expect ourselves to be perfect. Some of us do. So all of this has got to stop. If you don't do it to your friends, or you do what you do to your friends to you, become your own best friend. As cliched as that is, I genuinely mean it. The all or nothing thinking, the toxic thinking. I failed this exam, I'm rubbish at all exams. No, you're not. So we've got to stop this and look at the reality of the situation. We've got to get some context and some perspective. Over generalizations, this will always happen. I'm never any good at it. So if you hear yourself use the words always or never, you're overgeneralizing. Question the reality. It's not always. How often is it? It's not never. Sometimes. How often? Minimizing the positives, batting off those compliments. Oh, this whole thing, I've had this for ages. Oh, it was only cheap. I got it from the market, whatever. Don't minimize the positives. Soak up that compliment. It was well deserved. They meant it genuinely and sincerely. They're not only saying it to be polite. Why? That's a bit like someone wrapping up a beautiful gift that they've gone out and bought for you. They've thought long and hard about it. They've spent some money on you. They've made a big effort. They've wrapped it beautifully. They hand you that present, and without even opening it, you just say, oh no, I don't, take it back. I don't want that. It would be so rude, so hurtful. You wouldn't do that. And yet we do that sometimes with compliments. We just bat it back with, oh, it's nothing. But they meant it sincerely. They took a risk. They said it. It's hard sometimes to give a compliment. That's your homework for this week, actually. Give a load of compliments and see how uncomfortable at times it makes us feel. Particularly, give a compliment to a stranger, for example. If you're in the petrol station paying for your petrol, in the coffee, getting your coffee in a coffee outlet, or being served in a shop, checking out from a hotel room, give the person behind the desk a compliment of, oh, thanks ever so much. Your smile really brightened my day today, or something like that. And it feels sometimes hard to do. So it sometimes feel uncomfortable. So when someone gives you a compliment, they have taken a risk and they put their neck on the line a little bit. I know that's drastic, but you know what I mean. The should statements, I ban the word should. Says who? We say it to ourselves. Could is a much better word. There's an element of choice there. And jump into the conclusions. They all think I'm stupid. They think this, they're thinking that, or he doesn't like me, or whatever. How do you know that? When I hear a client say that to me, and I'll say, how do you know? Well, I just know. Well, how do you know? Well, and I'll say, what tell me, share with me the evidence that they don't like you. What have they said? What have they done? There's very rarely any evidence. It's in here. Seed of thought went in their mind. Then they look for confirming evidence and think it's a fact. No, it very rarely is. So be careful of the jumping to conclusions, or mind reading, as I call it. And the catastrophic thinking, it'll be a disaster, I'll be rubbish, I'll be slow, they'll be much faster than me, they'll be much stronger than me, they'll be much better at this, they'll be interviewing better than me, they'll be brighter than me. We've got to stop doing the catastrophizing. And when a client does that, I'll say, what if it does go well? What if you do launch a business and it's a huge success? What if you do stand up there on the stage and present and it goes really well and the audience respond really well and you love it? What if you do go on that date and it's actually the love of your life, it's your soulmate? And it really stops them in the tracks, because actually what they do with the catastrophic thinking, they don't even think about what potentially could go well. And so they've got this movie in their head of it all going horribly wrong. They run this movie over and over again until they convince themselves, talk themselves out of it, and they don't go. They've never visualized or run the movie of it potentially being the best thing ever, or even just being fine, being okay. Fine. What's the worst that could happen? Will someone get hurt? No. Will someone die? No. Will I die? No. What's the worst that can happen? That's always a good question to ask yourself. So I quite often say, we've got philosophies or views. We trot out these lines, don't we? I'm this, I'm this, I'm that. And the one that we all know from the film, life's like a box of chocolates. You never really know what you're going to get. That's a classic philosophy about life. And I often ask clients, what's your philosophy about life? And why is that important? You might be thinking, I don't know what my philosophy of life is, do I? You might not think this is important, but actually that can underpin your kind of reactions to everything. Here we've got Ken and Bob, for example. So Ken is a glass half full kind of guy. Very optimistic, always sees the bright side of everything, thinks life is an adventure. Let's say that's what Ken thinks, life's an adventure. Whereas Bob's glass half empty. He thinks life's a bitch, life's a battle. Let's say that's what he thinks, that's his view, life's a battle. Okay, so that's just their philosophy on life, but how does that affect them in everyday life? Does it affect them in everyday life? Well, actually, I think it does. I really, really do think it does. Let's say both of them work in the same company for the same duration, same everything. Their lives are the same business-wise. They're both, I don't know, they're both an accountant in a big firm. I don't know where I came up with that. But they've both, out of the blue, suddenly just received redundancy. They didn't see it coming, shock. How do they both respond to that? Ken, who thinks life's an adventure, or Bob, who thinks life's a battle? Well, Ken is likely to think, well, maybe this is the push I needed, actually. I've got a little bit of money here. I've always wanted to be a pig farmer in the countryside, or I've always wanted to import wine, or I've always wanted to travel the world. My wife and I now could just get a camper van and go travelling. This is great news. Life's an adventure, or whatever. Or even not, it doesn't have to be so life-changing. It's so drastic. It could just be that, gosh, I've been made redundant. Wow, that's a bit of a shock. But it's okay, life's an adventure, I'll get another job, I'll just be a different firm, there might be a better firm, better values, I'll make some new friends, some new colleagues, this is good, maybe they'll have a gym there, or they'll have a five-a-side football team there, or no, this is fine, I can bounce back from this. Whereas Bob, life's a battle. I suspect he's going to take this a lot harder. You see, didn't see that. What am I going to do now? How am I going to sort my career out? We're all being made redundant. The climate's in a bad order. There's going to be no jobs out there. Now, what am I going to do? This is disastrous. How am I going to pay the mortgage? So on and so on. Let's say as well that the same guys, let's say they both got late teenage sons, same age sons. and their sons, despite apparently working really, really hard at school and college, they've just come back and revealed that they haven't been working very hard at all. And in fact, they've just got their A-level results and they failed their A-level results, and they can't get into university, the university they had wanted to go to. They don't know what they're going to do now. They basically failed horribly, all of their exams, and their future's up in the air. How's Ken going to respond to that compared to Bob? Ken, who thinks life's an adventure, is probably going to respond very differently than Bob, who thinks life's a struggle, etc. Let's say they both had a horrible diagnosis. Not great diagnosis health-wise, the same diagnosis. How do they cope with that? What I'm trying to say is here, depending on what your philosophy in life is, your view in life is, would actually, I believe, fundamentally affect how you react to certain things, well, to anything, actually. If you see life's like a box of chocolates, or life's an adventure, or life's a bitch, or life's a battle, or whatever, it's going to affect you. But again, as I said earlier, awareness is half the battle. If you suddenly realise, oh my word, I am glass half empty, and you can change this. I was working with a client a little while ago, actually, who admitted I'm a negative kind of guy. My mates all take the mick out of me when we're at the pub quizzes, and what else do they do? I think they cycle together. There's a group of them, a whole group of guys. And he said they all take the mick out of me because I'm always negative. I'll always see the downside of anything. When we're out on a cycle ride, I'll see us getting lost, or I'll predict myself getting a puncture, or the quiz, and I said, do you want to be like that? And he said, no, actually, I don't want to be like that anymore. He'd had enough of it. He was boring himself and dragging himself down, actually. He wanted to be upbeat like his mates, who always had a laugh about things, saw the funny side of things, chilled about things, were cool, less stressed, got better sleep as a result, reacted well to adversity. He wanted that. And so we were working together on how he could change his reactions and his thoughts around things. And we can change at any point. Half of it is being aware. The other half is about deciding that you want to change it. And then it's learning the tips and the ways forward from shaking off that old habit and learning new ones. So it is possible. First, you need to know what is your view, what are your philosophies. If your view, I love the one I've decided to adopt, which is life's an experiment. If we approach everything as an experiment, there's no such things as then failings or mistakes. You haven't made a mistake, it's an experiment. Oh, that didn't work, that experiment, I'll try a different experiment. So you can try doing a podcast, try writing a book, try going for that job as an experiment. If it goes really well, brilliant, you do more of it. If it doesn't go so well, you think, oh, that experiment didn't work, I'll change it. It takes the pressure off and the self-criticism and the negativity associated with it. It sits easier. So that's a philosophy that I'm trying my hardest. Let's try different reading material. Let's try cooking different food because life's an experience. Let's try going to a different restaurant that we've never eaten in. Just trying different things because life's one long experiment. It opens up your mind to new things and new experiences, and B, it stops you beating yourself up if the experiment didn't quite go so well, because it's just an experiment. So remember, speaking of dogs, you sometimes see three-legged dogs, don't you, because of one reason or another, an injury or an illness, they've had to lose a leg. But look at that dog. You don't see them down and feeling sorry for themselves and saying, why me, and holding themselves back and concentrating on what they can't do. They don't overthink it. What's great about dogs and animals compared to us is they don't overthink things and talk themselves out of things. Sometimes I think our worst enemy in some ways can be our mind and our thoughts. So it's not what happens to us often that affects our future, but really what we make of what has happened. that affects our future. So this dog here, he's just getting on with life, still chasing the ball or the stick or the bird, whatever he's chasing, and just getting on with it. I remember when my dad was still alive, he had dementia. And so he would instantly forget things from 15 minutes earlier, or from, very, very short-term memory was non-existent really. And he suffered a heart attack. It wasn't major. Well, it wasn't so major that he lost his life. He suffered a heart attack and was in hospital with it. But he'd instantly forgotten he'd had a heart attack. To the point where he didn't know why he was in hospital and kept taking it off the chest monitors and wandering off down the hospital, and they'd have to keep going to find him and bringing him back. And he thought he was on holiday and kept saying he didn't like this holiday. He wanted to go home. And in the end, they actually said after just 2 days, I think, take him home to recover, because he's not going to recover well here. He's getting anxious because he doesn't know why he's here. But make sure he just rests, and make sure follow these guidelines. And we were given leaflets and information about how he should rest for a good week, just sofa rest. And then after a week, he could potter around the garden a tiny bit, not lifting or anything like that. And then after that week, he could, and we had the information on how he should build these things up. But he had dementia and he'd forgotten he had a heart attack. And so he followed none of those guidelines, trying to get him to, no, Dad, no, you shouldn't be outside at the moment. You're supposed to be on the sofa. Why am I? Because you've had a heart attack. No, I haven't. Nothing wrong with me. And he literally would argue with us. And you'd go round every day. We went round every day to care for him. But he'd be out. He'd gone off for a walk. Even though he's supposed to be on the sofa and not doing anything. And actually, the benefits to him were, he recovered very quickly, because he was stoic and strong and determined, and didn't think there was anything wrong with him. But more important, I'm not at all suggesting that anybody should do that, not at all. But I think the fundamental thing with him was he couldn't remember he'd had a heart attack, so he wasn't anxious. He wasn't in his head all the time thinking, I better be careful. What if my heart goes again? What if this happens again? He wasn't frightened. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't thinking about it loads. He wasn't all absorbed about it and fearful. All of that was removed from him. And I think that was a benefit. I think the lack of anxiety and stress around it helped his recovery, because I think anxiety and stress and fear affect us negatively. They're not great for our health. And if you add that to a health issue, that's not great for recovery. And actually, I think he recovered quicker because he wasn't concerned, he wasn't frightened. And I envied that, having been ill myself and then suffering for a long time afterwards through of fear of it returning. He didn't have that. And I think that's a plus. I actually do think ignorance is bliss sometimes. It stops us overthinking things. So, but we don't have to have dementia to achieve that. We can be like this three-legged dog and let things go and not overthink it in order to be more resilient and move forward. Because, as I said, it's not what's happened, it's what we think and how we overanalyze that and churn it over that affects us. So I hope that's helped you today and given you some real thoughts and to go away and think about, some activities to go away and do, and some awareness as well. If you like what you've seen today, I am doing group coaching sessions around confidence generally, but they're all about self-belief. They're all about getting you motivated. They're much of what you've seen in this video and much, much more, and about the sorts of things I've discussed with that I've been working on with other clients. It's all about that. It's all about improving your thoughts, improving your outlook, improving how you feel, giving you tips, techniques, strategies on this and many other things and other areas. in order for you to feel so much more confident, to have so much more self-belief, to be more determined, to be more focused, to be more willing to get out there and have a go, for you to get out of any rut or feeling stuck, to make changes, to make improvements, to push yourself forward, to respond differently, to feel differently. The whole program is about that. So I am doing those on a rolling basis. They will be ongoing. So it doesn't matter when you watch this, whether you're watching this months down the line, I will be constantly running these, as I'm aware that a lot of people don't live local to me here in Hampshire in the UK. If you do live in Hampshire in the UK and you want one-to-one coaching, then there is my email. Just drop me an email and I would happily work with you on a one-to-one basis. If you prefer a one-to-one coaching via Zoom or WhatsApp or FaceTime or whatever, then that too is more than a possibility. But on top of that, now I'm also running these group course programs. So what it is a 7-week program. There's a start date here at the moment, but as I say, there is a rolling program, so it doesn't matter when you're watching this, there is likely to be one starting soon. I am going to keep them to a maximum of 8 people so that people don't feel intimidated and shy and fearful. There's a small enough group on Zoom where they will speak up a little bit when I ask them a question or ask for an example or ask for a show of hands, the way I've mentioned in this film. So because it's confidence, I need to keep them small groups so that it doesn't intimidate anybody, because I do realize it's a chicken and egg situation where you need some confidence in order to sign up, in order to take part, in order to grow your confidence. If I make it too big, it will put people off. So ordinarily they will be 7:30 to 8:30 on Wednesdays. That may change, so again drop me an email, because I may find that there's so much demand I'll do them maybe Mondays or Thursdays or different times. But at the moment this pilot will be our 7:30 to 8:30 on a Wednesday evening British summer time. So if you're abroad you can still join, but adjust the time for you. And it is only going to be 70 UK sterling pounds, which is basically breaks down to £10 per session over 7 weeks. And so for £70 per person, or whatever it is equivalent to in your country, you will come out the other side much, much stronger, confident, motivated, focused, driven, happier in your own skin, really, just happier in life, and not that horrible stuck feeling and self-doubting feeling in that prison, like that guy who was keeping himself in his bedroom at only 20. He had his whole life ahead of him and he's out there living it now to the full, which is great. So irrespective of when you're watching this, if this is something that you're interested in, it may not be Wednesdays, it may not be at that time, there may be many, many more options available. So don't let those practical issues hold you back, because by the time you watch this, there may be far further, more workshops out there for you. There may even be at the weekends. If there's demand, I may do some at the weekends as well for people who are working. So just drop me an email, dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk, or contact me via the website there, where there's all sorts of contact me boxes and email addresses and telephone numbers and stuff. So get in touch and I can put you on one of those programs whenever that is. And I'm really, really hope you do, because it can be life-changing. I don't make any apology for saying that. It's a bold statement, but it is true. I work a lot with young people under 25s, teenagers. I'm running this sort of course actually for, I think they're 12 and 13 in the school. Well, actually it's on Zoom, so I'm not in the school, although I do go in the schools and run them. So even if you're young, or if it's for your youngster, then it's very, very suitable, and actually quite fundamental for them when they're so young, because it means their whole future can be so much more than it might be if they don't learn all of these tips and techniques and strategies. It can open so many doors for them in their minds, being willing to do that. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. It's been great talking to you. Thank you very much. Follow me on YouTube and follow each of the next YouTube clip that comes up, or work with me on the confidence courses. Take care now, and thank you very much for for attending today's presentation.